Welcome to the Valley Politics History Interviews. I'm Terry Christensen. David Pandori is a Deputy District Attorney for Santa Clara County. Before his career in the law, he served on the San Jose City Council from 1991 to 1998, representing Downtown District 3, where he was preceded by Tom McEnery and succeeded by Cindy Chavez. The youngest council member at the time, he was smart, assertive, and independent, frequently grating on his council colleagues and then Mayor Susan Hammer. 2006, he ran for mayor and came in third in the primary despite a very innovative campaign. More recently, he co-chaired the city's general plan review. Our 2019 interview with David originally aired in two parts. Now here it is in full. David Pandori, welcome to Valley Politics.
Thanks for having me.
So you were a policy advisor to Mayor Tom McEnery, and then you ran for city council in 1990 and were re-elected again in 1994, serving till 1998.
Right.
What have you been doing since then? It's been a while.
Well, before all of that, more importantly, I was a student in your urban politics class at San Jose State.
I remember it well.
Since then, I've been a prosecutor in the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office. Worked my way up from misdemeanors, and for the last 14 years, I've been doing principally gang cases throughout the county and homicide cases.
Well, let's go back to 1990. So you ran for city council in 1990, and you produced my favorite piece of campaign literature for a district candidate ever. I'm sure you remember it. It's classic. You did this map of all the neighborhoods in District 3. Your district was the downtown district.
Right.
16 neighborhoods.
Right.
And not only did you map them, but you listed like 4 or 5 policies and programs for each of those neighborhoods. So 2 questions. Where did you get this idea, and do you think people actually paid as much attention to it as I did?
Well, I don't know about the second thing, but the first part of it was politics wasn't necessarily where I was headed.
You were doing urban planning.
Right, right.
Your degree in planning.
My emphasis in my study at San Jose State was in urban planning.
Yeah. And
I'd gone to Berkeley and got my master's in that. It was actually your class, and I wasn't meaning to give you any promotion here, that kind of opened my eyes that politics was the means to that end, that the means wasn't working as a bureaucrat in a planning department handling applications or permits, but it was more important to be involved in the elected side of government because that's where you could really have an impact. So I never thought of politics anything differently but thinking of it as a neighborhood or as a city and what you want to do for those cities. And I was much less interested in partisan ideas.
The neighborhood map, the neighborhood policies, it must have taken a lot of work just to put all that together.
It did, it wasn't...
Even though you'd been in the mayor's office for a while, so that will have helped.
It did, but there was actually a lot of work that went into that. The houses and buildings are actual houses and buildings in the district. And I really wanted to make it real, so we actually got a watercolor artist and gave her these pictures of all these diverse buildings in the downtown and a map, and tried to describe not exactly what it was then, but what we were hoping that it could be, and then had to go through and really think about each area individually and what you hope to accomplish.
I like it. It's a pretty map, but it's a happy map. You can't look at it and I mean, some maps are just cold and they're just lines on paper, but because of the illustration, it's a happy map. When you ran for re-election in '94, you did something else a little bit different, or a lot different from what most candidates do. You published a 119-page booklet of how to advance the interests of your neighborhood, work with City Hall, access city services. You had a pretty easy re-election campaign, I think. Why did you want to do that? Why did you want to produce a booklet and distribute?
Oh, I hate junk mail. And it seems like it's gotten only worse.
Oh yeah, and campaign mail, yeah.
I thought the internet and the World Wide Web and all that was gonna change that, but it's in some ways it's made it worse because people don't watch commercials on TV, they don't listen to ads on radio, and even in the last elections, there seems to be more, not less, junk mail. And there was already a lot way back in the pre-internet days when I ran for council. And even then, I was just thinking, you know, this is not what people want. This is not what they're going to read. It's only going to have a life of maybe 5 or 10 seconds between the time they take it out of their mailbox and walk over to the trash can. And that's not what I wanted to spend my time on. And if I was going to raise money for a re-election or a campaign, I didn't want to spend it on junk mail. I wanted to make it something worthwhile. Hopefully people would read it.
Well, I still have mine. Did you get good feedback on it from people as you were out talking to voters?
I'm not sure that was necessarily that I expected anybody to read from beginning to end.
Right.
But it was more like a reference thing that they could use. And to me, it was more of an extension of what I was doing on the council, which was I'm there to help people, and so here's some information on how you can help yourself.
So you're a prosecuting attorney now, and looking back at the news clips about your actions on the council, some might say your style was a little prosecutorial then. You called out the city manager for usurping the policy powers of the council. Your colleagues variously called you arrogant, the town moralist, pushy, sarcastic, but also independent and brilliant. In retrospect, would you operate differently if you were on the council now?
Well, I'm not sure most of those things are true, especially the brilliant one. You know, as you get older, I think you always think about, you know, could I do things better, or what experiences do I have now that could lend themselves to doing a better job on that. For me, I think the independent thing is true. I didn't really go there. Although people were thinking I was going there as the business candidate, I certainly didn't go there as that. And I wasn't there as the organized labor candidate either. I always kind of viewed myself as a populist, more as a neighborhood person. My focus was on very specific things. So, and I didn't necessarily see this as a career. So it's challenging to take an independent position and stand up for it. It would be easy just to do sort of what you might do, like a Lou Ryden, and vote no, and not say much about anything.
Or just go along with the flow.
Right.
Go along with your colleagues.
But if you're going to argue against it and argue it effectively, you have to walk this line that sometimes I did well and sometimes I didn't, of really trying to be persuasive in the points that you make without offending people. And I think there are times that I could have done a better job of that.
Looking back on those 8 years on the council, what do you think were your greatest accomplishments? What are you most proud of?
Well, you know, in a way, if you're going to be in the minority or independent, and if you still want to be successful, you have to find other ways to collaborate. And so I was able to do that sort of with the interest groups outside of City Hall. And so the campaign reform measures that I wanted to see enacted that stopped the day-to-day constant fundraising that was going on, not just during elections, but after elections and before elections. That was something I wanted to change. And I floated it with the council, and I was just getting nowhere. So I spent about a year collaborating with others in the community, the League of Women Voters, people from the Chamber of Commerce, and just neighborhood people, and brought back the very same proposals that I'd made, you know, a year before, and this time had enough support where they got approved. So that's something I was proud of doing.
Closing San Carlos Street through San Jose State, you shepherded that, right?
That was collaboration too, because there was, back in that day, there was a very adverse relationship between the Campus Community Association and the university. The last thing anybody wanted to see was San Carlos Street closed because of the impact that was going to have. But we put together a large task force. Some might have said too big, but I think in the end it worked out well, because by the end of that long process, I don't know if it was a matter of just boring people to death, people came together, and I think it was for the good of everyone. There's a wonderful walk now. People can take from the campus community down the the closed walkway on San Carlos. The campus has been unified, 7th Street's been improved, and so I think that's a better example of me collaborating than maybe the other ones that you brought
Well,
up.
it was a transformative project, and as you say, the Negley Park campus community folks were very skeptical and mistrustful at the university,
Yeah.
so it took that time to get people to a different level of trust.
Yeah.
Yeah. Project Crackdown?
Yeah, well, that was in a day with a well-staffed police department that
Yeah.
was able to do proactive things and really inspire neighborhood people to reach out and work with them and have the courage to report problems in parks and gang activity and drugs. And so it was a great opportunity to have that implemented in a couple different neighborhoods in the district and to see it have a benefit. And it was actually through that I really grew to become interested in working in the district attorney's office after leaving council.
What about disappointments in those 8 years? Is there something you really had hoped to do you weren't able to do?
Well, you know, I think I was really pretty happy with a lot of the things that we were able to do. That was a go get it kind of era where there was lots of building going on, the arena opened. We moved the tech into the center of the downtown. That museum opened. The Children's Discovery Museum opened. We got the Biblioteca in the Washington community funded and under construction. Roosevelt Park was improved. Burnell Park was doubled in size. So there were a lot of good things to look at. The thing I guess I'm disappointed at was I thought we were making headway and progress on Guadalupe River Park. But for a couple of notable exceptions, one was getting the headquarters purchased, and Ken Yeager and Cindy Chavez were instrumental in that. And then Shirley Lewis working with the Rotary on that beautiful play garden. Other than that, it's just been hugely disappointing to see what's been going on over there. It's kind of turned into a dumping ground, and the city has seemed more interested in using it as a parking lot for the earthquakes than in a campground.
Yes. Yeah.
Than doing anything positive at all.
I was up there recently, and I was shocked, actually,
Yeah,
at the state of it.
it's in horrible condition.
Yeah. Well, in 2006, you ran for mayor. You published another booklet, more policy-focused rather
Yeah.
than how-to.
Right.
And I've retained a copy of that, too. We'll show it to our viewers. You ran for mayor in 2006, and you came in third. So you didn't make the runoff. Chuck Reed becomes mayor. What do you think happened? Why didn't you win? Mercury endorsed you. Very nice endorsement.
I think if I had run any kind of thoughtful, reasonable effort, or put the effort I really needed to put into it, I would have.
Yeah.
I was the last one to get into that race, a field of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I didn't start until February. I wanted to start sooner, but I got stuck in a trial that was supposed to finish a lot sooner. But in reality, I should have started 6 months before. The fact of the matter is I had a campaign that ran basically for 3 months. 3 months. I was outspent 4 or 5 times the amount of money, and I went from 0 to third in that amount of time. And I think a lot of it was due to that book. The internet was just starting to make an impact on campaigns then, and I thought that was going to be the great equalizer. I was outspent 4 times, and we did this book, and it was a book that had links in it. So if you downloaded it, you could click on things and learn even more.
Yeah, this is 2006, so that was pretty innovative.
Yeah, and it was strange because, I mean, for a politician, you call it a piece of literature. For a voter, you call it junk mail, right? The good is, in the last week and a half of that campaign, there were 10,000 downloads of that.
Wow.
And the campaign was really taking hold. There had been a tracking poll only like 4 weeks earlier where I was in like 5th or 6th place. And I moved up to 3rd. I think I finished just out of behind Cindy Chavez by about 4 or 5 points. I beat Dave Cortese, who'd been
Yeah.
campaigning a year and spent $1 million. I still look on that experience as a very positive experience of what a campaign can be.
Have you thought about managing campaigns?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And then I stopped.
Yeah, I think you got a better job right now. So one of the things you talk about in that book, and it's something you've been, hesitate to use the word obsessed, but concerned about all through your career, as you were with Mayor McEnery, while you were on the council, later on when you were co-chaired in Vision 2040, the new general plan, was Coyote Valley.
Right.
And your criticism of the consistently flawed planning of Coyote Valley. How do you feel about where the city is now on Coyote Valley?
I think it's great. I couldn't be more pleased. That was kind of a factor why I got into the race late, because nobody was talking about it, and those mayoral elections are the great opportunity for sellouts. I'm not trying to personalize anything, but the development interests in the city see that those are the elections where they have the opportunity to influence candidates who are running for mayor, and that's the single most important seat in city government that's going to have a say on big things like Coyote Valley. And it was clear that Coyote Valley was in play in that election, and nobody was standing up for it. And so that was a big reason why I got in.
So right now, it looks like the city is going to purchase development rights to a big chunk of the valley with bond money that the voters passed, and development is going to be on hold indefinitely on a chunk of the land.
Yeah, it's amazing. And more than that, when it was first efforts that were made to open it, and that was really under Mayor McEnery, the whole idea was it was going to be this campus industrial, so we could get the maturing Silicon Valley companies, the big ones that were outgrowing the smaller sites in Palo Alto and North San Jose, and we capture these huge campuses in the north part. And if you had asked me back then, that was in the 80s, where would be the next high-tech campus, I would have told you it would have been in Coyote.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's absolutely wonderful. The next big campus isn't this suburban, cold, parking lot place, but it's going to be a village and not a campus, and it's going to be Google. And instead on the periphery of the city, it's going to be in the center of the city. And it's going to be part of really, I think, reimagining what a downtown can be.
David, we got less than a minute left. How do you think city government is functioning now generally? Do you have any advice for our current council and mayor?
I think it's functioning pretty well. I think the benefit of district elections is still there, although I'm kind of disappointed that they seem to be mini stages for big interests to play themselves out, business and labor, and I'm not sure the neighborhood voice is heard as much in that play out of the Titans. But overall, I think it's a very open government with people who want to do well, and it's a very collaborative place.
That's it for us, David. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you.
For other interviews with the leaders and activists who shaped the history of San Jose and Santa Clara County, find CreaTV on YouTube and scroll down to the Valley Politics History Interviews.